Greetings fellow mayors, this is Captain Obvious and welcome back to the Masterclass series, and in this episode I will share the 4 steps to efficient city planning. We will be creating our new district on the riverbank, and notice how steep the terrain is, which will make it difficult to set up a road network going uphill. Therefore, the first step to proper city planning is establishing the foundation of your new district. In this case, we need to lower the coastline or riverbank to save some knees when we add ferry stops. Depending on the strength of the river current, you need about 3 to 4 terrain levels from the water level, which is the least terrain height, to prevent random flooding. Also take note that the water levels differ as the river goes up or downstream. It is also imperative to lower the coastline and add quays on both sides of the river to prevent future flooding. Step 2 is to add transportation options for within the district and long distance transportation to connect to other districts from other build tiles. First, I added a ferry pier at the end of the river, then we created blocks on the base level of the riverbank. Then I added an elevated dual island platform metro station to serve as our long distance travel to connect commuting from tile to tile. Now creating the second level is tricky, and its terrain height will be based on the tiered seawall quay with stairs, which allows pedestrians to walk up and down the quays. Now that we have the second terrain height, we just need to create a road slope from the base level to the upper level, and of course, none of this is possible without the use of key anarchy and node controller. Then we create new blocks on our second level. Then basically it will be rinse and repeat as you climb the steep terrain until you get to the top. The width or depth of your terrain levels will depend on how steep the terrain is. The more steep, the smaller the blocks, and vice versa. It is also important to take note that you need as many means for vehicles to move up and down the levels, otherwise you may experience traffic. Ideally, majority of the vehicles will be trucks delivering goods, while Sims will opt to commute to our riverbank district on our metro and ferry stations. Another thing to keep in mind are the size of your blocks and what you plan to have in them. We have a goal of reaching 100,000 population before City Skylines 2 is released, so majority of this riverbank district will be high density residential with a splash of commercial, parks, and whatnot. And of course, we also need a bridge to get across the river. If you haven't noticed already, I love bridges, and bridges is the whole theme of this city. And I am delighted on the development of our city. Just a heads up that we will not establish the other side of the river just yet. I am simply preparing a bridge to plan ahead. Other than zoning, we also need ample space for service structures, so this is why the blocks are not absolutely perfect. And sometimes they have a large gap in between, which I intend to fill in with necessary ploppable buildings. One thing I did not mention is that there are 2 types of city builders. Those who respect topography or the lay of the land, while there are those like myself who would rather mold the terrain to my vision than regret when there are awkward lumps around your buildings and roads. There is no right or wrong method, it is a matter of personal choice. And I choose to mold the riverbank because it is a high land value area near water, which will help with the happiness of the citizens. Therefore, I am going to take that opportunity to build around it and not let it slide. And finally, we reach the very top of the terrain, and it is a little close to the industrial area, but that will be up to us on how we can make it blend together quite nicely. We have to keep in mind the noise and ground pollution caused by the industry areas, so I will most likely zone just commercial or offices on top of the level. Okay, so I will continue the time lapse of creating our road network Then we will continue with the third step of planning a district for maximum efficiency with no traffic and no complaints from citizens. I think we have more than enough to start populating our new district, but first, let's take a closer look at what we've accomplished. So we have 3 levels. This is the base level, and there are 2 ways to move up and down. One is by pedestrian keys with stairs, so pedestrians can decide to walk up, or by vehicle, where we have a slope here going up to the 2nd level. Then you go in here on the 2nd level again, then you move up to the 3rd and final level. And of course, I mentioned the keys, which are nicely aligned to each other. This one's a little off, but that's all right. So here's another way to move up. So this is a slope going here, and then a slope to the 3rd level. And we also have another way to move up and down going through here. And of course, we have our transportation set up. Got this nice metro line going through, and it'll be really neat if you see people walking and then they can see the trains going through. And okay, so that is neat. Let's go ahead and start the 3rd step, which is providing services in our new district area. And the first that I really like to put down is the elder care building, and I will place it right on top, which has maximum area, and it also fills up a good decent space up here. So I am gonna put that in right now. And of course, you also need a child healthcare building. So this works like a welfare office somewhat for City Skylines too, but instead it's for the health of children and elders. Okay, next you need to provide cemeteries, which is very important. So we're gonna go with the crematorium memorial park, and I'm just gonna place it right over here. So that's one, and we'll place another on this end. Okay, and of course we also need other services such as police and fire. So I'm gonna go with this building, the high capacity police headquarters. So I'm gonna plop it down over here. And of course we need a fire station, so we'll just go for this one. And let's see if we can squeeze in other buildings. There you go, not bad. Okay, next of course we need garbage, so I will place the eco-friendly incinerator plant, and I'm gonna just plop it over here. So you notice this side I did not build. That's because I avoid building on the edges of the map. So this will only be 9 tiles. We don't have enough time to open all 25. I want to be able to finish this before City Skylines 2 comes out. Then let's go ahead and add in some unique buildings just to increase the attractiveness of our area. Okay, I think we have more than enough unique buildings. Let's take a look at it from an angle and from a distance. So you can see we have our downtown on the coastline, and then we have another one that's going to be along the river. So I'm really excited when this starts getting developed. Let's go ahead and start the fourth step, which is zoning. And zoning has a few rules. So for instance, this, you should be aware that this causes noise. So for instance, if I place it here, you see the red circle. So be aware that all of that, you should not zone residential. Therefore, we're going to plan our commercial around it. And that goes the same with the ferry stops, but more importantly, things like train stations. So let's go ahead and start zoning. But before that, let's also add in some pedestrian paths so that there are ways for our citizens to move up and down our levels. Then let's go ahead and zone in. So other things that I do when it comes to zoning is we're going to be using mixed zoning. So for instance, here, since this is a corner, I am going to kind of, wow, I don't know why that did that. So I guess I have to redo it. So we're going to mix it up with also high density commercial, but we need to be aware that it should be spread out. Notice the distance between each high density commercial zoning. This is because commercial, especially high density commercial, causes a lot of noise pollution, which will cause nearby residents to complain and eventually move out if not addressed. However, since I spread the commercial zoning and it is not clustered in a single block, as a result, the noise pollution is not as severe and the noise pollution is tolerable by nearby residents. By mixing high density commercial and residential, we now have a variety of structures instead of just one type, such as all residents. And again, on the base level is where majority of the noise pollution are due to the metro station and ferry stop. Therefore, we will take every opportunity to zone as much commercial as we can. On the edges of the quay and near the metro station, I've created a district and set the commercial type to local and organic produce, which are low-rise buildings. I just want to make sure that our metro station has a great view and is not lost amongst the giant buildings nearby. Looking at our city demands, we still have a healthy demand for residents and commercial. This just means that people are eager to move into the city and they also need shopping locations to spend their money on. Okay, so there are a few things that I want to point out before we get any further, and that relates to zoning. So for instance, if you see this, it created that little thing, the terrain. That's because of the path. So this is why here I used the generic pavement path instead of the stylish amusement park or any of the park asset paths. So these conform to the slope. So let's go ahead and replace this. Yeah, so basically what that means is on the keys on the top level, if you zone anything on top or anything is nearby within two units, then it will cause a lump on the bottom of the key. So this is why when I zone, I only zone on the bottom part of the key. So on this side, I am not zoning, while this side I can zone and it will not affect that. So that is like a rule. So same thing I did here. Notice how on the bottom I'm able to queue. So now this is the new bottom, and this side I just planted trees instead. So we got a lot of ATMs, but all of these will level up. And let's go ahead and take a look at the Sims. Yeah, there you go. They're going up and down the keys as expected. Okay, so slowly and surely everything is being developed. So let's go ahead and continue populating the other side of the bridge. Take note that high density commercial zoning entices more high wealth tourists to your city, while low density commercial invites low wealth tourists. High density commercial also accumulates more traffic, so it is best to spread them apart and to provide transportation options for citizens to commute to these areas. Another reminder is that I do selective zoning with a 3 to 4 unit with high density residential for the usually construct buildings that I prefer. So for example, I can zone a 4x4, a 4x3, or a 3x4 and a 3x3. What I do avoid are anything that is with a 1 to 2 unit with high density residential zoning. I really just dislike those buildings. It is my personal preference and I enjoy the outcome without them. Okay, before we go any further, it's important to pause every once in a while and check the status of your city. So we don't see any alerts except for this, but of course, again, these are just delivery delays. When it comes to traffic, we have dropped down to 82%. So I'm going to do some little traffic management and we're gonna increase traffic both in the same time. It will make sense a little later. All right, so I am just simply going to convert this into a 6-lane road. Then we're gonna make some roads into one-way direction. So this will be just going out. And then I also noticed some traffic on this side. Therefore, let's do some editing here as well. Let's make these go in one direction. So now I'm forcing all the vehicles, instead of going here, they will just take this route instead. And hopefully that would kind of help reduce the amount of traffic that we currently have. So if we take a look, it's even worse right now, but give it some time and it will work itself out. And the other thing that you want to check is, of course, your demands. So our residential is beginning to drop and our industry is rising. So I am going to create our industry area. So I'm going to unlock this tile and we are going to start setting up the ore and oil industry, and the goal is just to level up. Okay, so first we're gonna start with our oil industry, and this is a very awkward moment whenever building or starting your industrial area, because you only have a few items available, especially at level 1. So at level 1, all we have is this. So as I was saying, we only have these items, right? We have extractor and we have processing buildings. And the awkward thing about this is it's completely useless trying to design something with only a few items. So therefore I do not take like the first levels seriously. Instead, all the goal is to reach level 5. That's pretty much it. So we're gonna ignore the design and the priority is just to level up. And this goes for everything that requires levels. For example, parks, the airport, and whatever else is there. Looks like we're also low on electricity, so let's just turn this on. Okay, so that should help a little. And I use this route so that we're not fully congesting this area. Let's check our traffic flow. So our traffic went up to 85, 84, so at least it helped reduce it. We are still on a 1 entrance challenge. This is the main entrance from the beginning of the maps. So as you can see, we don't have any connections yet, and we're still decent, but I know a way to fix that. But first I want to complete my industrial areas. So we're gonna do the same exact thing with the ore industry. We're just gonna level up. So I'm just gonna plop down buildings and meet the requirements for workers and gathered resource or produced resources, and then we're just gonna proceed with our build by the river. And we've reached level 2 of our oil, even before I completed the ore industry. But first, let me just add this one, and let's go ahead and add more of the new buildings. So you want to put in the extractor buildings, or I mean processing buildings. So I'm just gonna add like maybe up to 4, and then we're gonna add in some of the new oil drills. So 4 is pretty much decent. It should be more than enough workers. So again, we are just trying to reach this. So the more extractors you have, the faster they are that they will deliver to our processing buildings, and the more processing buildings you have, the faster resources are produced, and the produced are from petroleum and plastics, and of course we are extracting oil. And occasionally, of course, we add in some storage facilities, and remember to always set that as fill. So that will be the same here. So I have this thing, so I set it as fill, and when you only have level 1s, and it's going to deliver on this end. Okay, so right now we can't really do anything because we don't have any buildings, even though we need more industry as that is the demand of the city. So instead, what I'm gonna do is we are just gonna continue developing our area here. So at least in time, that will gather all the produced resource, and we'll have a new level, and we're just gonna continue. We're gonna rinse and repeat. So while we're waiting, we're just gonna like develop our road networks. We barely developed anything, and the ore industry already leveled up. Let's add the glass manufacturing plant, and this now means that we have all industry production available. Therefore, we can now activate all unique factories and earn more income from the luxury goods sold to commercial buildings. We can now go ahead and add in other unique factories, and we also need to add more production buildings so we can reach the final industry level for the ore and oil factories. And again, a reminder, the layout for now does not really matter, simply because there are still other structures that have yet to be unlocked, and we would like to design our final layout when we have everything unlocked and available to us. This will be a multi-layered ore extractor site, which will appear to be digging into this mountain for its ore resource. Again, this is not the final layout, but at least you have an idea on what it may look like. I enjoy every design aspect of City Skylines, but what brings me the most satisfaction is finalizing the industrial areas, and I am most excited to do so in a future episode after we unlocked everything for all industry types. Now that we have all the ore and oil industry set up, we can go back to developing our riverbank while simultaneously waiting for the two industries to reach their final level. A few things to take note is that we just need 2 more thousand population to reach the 40k metropolis milestone, which will give us another tile to work with. Another thing to keep in mind is that we need lower grade schools in our riverbank district. Throughout the whole city, we still have just that one single university level education, which is the Modern Technology Institute that just has 4,000 student capacity. So this means that our university level demands is currently in the red and is in dire need for more university space. Ultimately, this is all part of a plan to develop our campus university in a future episode, and it will level up instantly due to the capacity demands. We are basically at 40% from a 100,000 population goal to end the city while maintaining efficiency throughout all important management aspects of the city. And looking at the calendar, we have about 14 days until the release of City Skylines 2. And of course, this is a new toy and everybody wants to play with their new toy. It's just facts. But at some point, City Skylines 2 will eventually die down a little, and especially after we've figured everything out, and we could go back to this and the other past unfinished cities. However, I'm sure that it is possible to complete this city in 2 weeks if I streamed it live, but if I did that, the video would definitely be an hour or so long, and I'm not sure if you, the audience, is willing to watch a video that is that long. My video editing, for instance, for this episode, this is over 5 hours in real-time gameplay, and I am condensing the editing so you can enjoy the build in more or less just 30 minutes. And that is my objective for every video that I make. I'm still undecided on how we'll try to finish this city before City Skylines 2 comes out, but for the sake of engagement, please comment in the video description if you don't mind live stream gameplay or would still prefer this video style. And while you're at it, feel free to hit that like button, which helps out the channel. Nevertheless, since I have zero experience with City Skylines 2, I will definitely be live streaming the CS2 gameplay in the purple channel and just publish highlights of the build. And we are nearly 40,000 population, and we've developed a large enough area in our riverbank district. So offline, I've made a hard connection for the metro line, and as you can see, it is now connected into the main city. But don't worry, this is not the actual design, and I've also added a ferry depot, so now both our metro and ferries are activated. With that said, our traffic flow is now at 89%, which is not bad considering that this is a challenge of a single starting highway entrance and exit city. And taking a closer look at our riverbank district, please try to ignore this traffic on the main road. I will make all of this vanish in a future episode, and we are not going to use the pedestrian street hack. And we have reached our destination for today's episode. Please take the time to hit the like button to support the channel. This is Captain Obvious. I appreciate your time spent here and for choosing to fly with Obvious Airlines. Have a great day, and I will see you in the next flight.